I am so hungry, I could eat a horse. I didn't mean it. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Food Theory, the show that won't eat a horse, but will beat a dead one. Okay, so hear me out. The food world is full of weird idioms. Bringing home the bacon, walking on eggshells, being a hard nut to crack. Those all make some level of sense. But then you have ones like, oh, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. That right there, that is a weird phrase. Like, why do we choose horse as opposed to some bigger and more commonly eaten animal like an entire cow? Or better yet, why didn't we choose something more absurd with a lot of meat like, I'm so hungry I could eat a bear or an elephant, just to drive that hungry point home? Well, it turns out for such a common phrase, we don't actually know a lot about it. At most, we know where it seems to have first been used, in 1824 by a writer named Tobias George Smollett. His original phrasing went a little something like this, quote, "For I be so hungry I could eat a horse behind the saddle." That just leaves me with more questions. What exactly did he mean to imply by saying behind the saddle? Did he mean that he was so hungry he could eat a horse while riding it? Did he mean he could eat directly through the saddle or under the saddle? Proper prepositions be hard, y'all. Or was he only interested in eating certain rear end parts of the horse that for the sake of our monetization shall remain nameless? I don't know. And most importantly of all, why couldn't he spell hungry correctly? Truly, it is a mysterious phrase. But that's not the only mysterious part of it. Horse meat is just one of those things that we as a culture have collectively determined is not on the menu. And that's saying a lot. I mean, humans will eat anything. Literally anything. In parts of Italy, maggot cheese is a delicacy. In Mongolia, they use sheep eye as a hangover cure. In ancient Korea, they made drinks out of human baby poo. And yet somehow, some way, horses are right up there with cats, dogs, and Pokemon on the roster of critters that people in America just will not eat. Why? Where did this taboo come from? As I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom and getting low on meat, should I be feeling guilty when I look over at my golden stallion and think, maybe? Now, let me be clear. Today, we are not eating any horses. Stephanie would literally have a cow if I ever asked her to eat a horse. I also recognize that the taboo against eating horses does not exist in all parts of the world. Far from it. Horse meat is a key source of protein in lots of different cultures. In fact, it used to be one here in America too. And you see, that is why I'm so curious about this. What happened? When and why did horse meat get canceled in America? And if I wanted to, if I really wanted to, could I be so hungry that I could eat an entire horse? No. There are lots of reasons why horse isn't on the menu today. But the one I bet you didn't suspect is that here in the US, horse meat has actually been banned by the FDA for potentially being deadly. Now, to begin, let's just get the easy question out of the way first. How hungry would someone have to be to eat a horse? Well, an average-sized horse has a mass of approximately 992 pounds or 450 kilograms. Since horses are about 45% muscle, that translates to about 270,000 calories worth of energy. Since the GDA, or Guide Daily Amount Caloric Intake for a healthy adult person, is usually listed at 2,000 calories, the meat from an average-sized horse would theoretically sustain a human for about 135 days, assuming you could preserve it for all that time, etc., etc. Like I said, that one right there, that is the easy answer. But we want to get to the spirit of the phrase. The saying isn't, I'm so hungry I could eat a bunch of horse meat. It's, I could eat a horse, as in literally the entire thing. So what are we doing about all the other bits in there? Well, when it comes to organ meat, there's nothing that says you can't eat the hearts, lungs, stomachs, etc. It's just a matter of different preparations to get rid of the potential toxins. See, while some organ meat is healthy and even recommended for certain health benefits, like say all the vitamins associated with the liver, others aren't safe at all. One example, a polar bear's liver has enough vitamin A in it to kill 52 adult humans. I don't hear the Liver King talking about that one, but when it comes to horses, their livers and hearts are perfectly fine to eat as long as you cook them enough to kill any dangerous bacteria. As for the bones and skin, that one's actually really easy. Some of you might already know this, but if not, it behooves me to tell you that rendered down horse bones, skin, and hooves is where most non-vegetarian gelatin comes from. Oh yeah, Jell-O, gummy bears, gumdrops, name a gelatin-based food product, and the default version of it's likely created from a rendering process where the unusable materials from slaughtered meat animals gets boiled down to make the jiggly wiggly gelatin protein. As you might imagine, this process was a lot more labor intensive before the advent of industrial farming, which is why gelatin desserts used to be exclusively thought of as food for the rich. It's also why when instant Jell-O powder became publicly available in the 50s and 60s, Jell-O molds were considered to be such a fancy dinner centerpiece for all the middle class folk, despite them being absolutely disgusting. interesting. Check out our episode about the Rainforest Cafe, believe it or not, for more information about that particular phenomenon. Anyway, in short, the gelatin takes care of all the hard-to-eat parts of the horse, and then you can always use the bones to make a rich soup stock.
Whoa. There's still plenty of meat on that bone. Now you take this home, throw it in a pot, add some broth, a potato. Baby, you got a stew going.
But what if I just wanted to eat a horse all at once in a single day? Well, the Argentine Falabella is actually going to be your best bet, generally considered to be the smallest breed of horse. These cute little guys stand at about 32 inches or 80 centimeters tall, and weigh in at about 70 pounds or 32 kilos when fully grown, making them about 900 pounds less than your typical horse. In total, one Falabella is actually going to translate to about 20,000 calories, meaning that to eat a horse in a single day, you'd have to have the stomach of a competitive eater and the black-hearted soul of a monster.
How could you?
Oh, and not that you asked or anything, but according to many nutritionists, this quote other red meat is supposedly pretty good for you, containing about half the fat, less cholesterol, and twice as much vitamin B and iron as beef. As far as taste goes, it's somewhat sweet, like a cross between beef and venison. It's probably why plenty of people worldwide do in fact eat horse regularly. Heck, if you happen to be watching this episode from Mexico, Switzerland, Kazakhstan, Belgium, Japan, Germany, Indonesia, Poland, or China, you might be wondering what the big deal is with all of this. It's not really considered all that unusual for horse meat to be sold and eaten the same way that beef, pork, chicken, or miscellaneous is here in the United States. And even here in the US, it wasn't always this way. During World War II, when most traditional meat was being rationed, horse meat wasn't. It was both regularly advertised and sold at ordinary butcher shops. In fact, at one time, horse was among the most common cheaper end materials used in the production of dog food.
Kennel ration is packed with lean red meat. It contains the wholesome steaks, chops, and roasts of U.S. government-inspected horse meat.
According to the Humane Society, that practice was supposed to have ended in the US as of 2007. But again, I ask, if it's so healthy for you and so cheap and so accepted internationally and able to sustain a single person for over 100 days, why has horse meat been explicitly banned in the US by the Food and Drug Administration? Well, your first guess might be that it's because it's a cultural taboo for us in America to eat horse. Sure, back in the World War II days, eating horse was okay, but in the aftermath, Americans saw the explosion of new forms of entertainment, movies, and the newcomer television. And the most popular genre in those early days? The Western. Westerns became the #1 genre of movies between 1945 and 1965. Roughly 1 in 4 releases by studios was a Western. Meanwhile, over in TV land, you had the likes of The Lone Ranger, The Roy Rogers Show. Not only were cowboys like John Wayne becoming household names, but their horses were as well. The Lone Ranger had Silver, Roy Rogers had Trigger. Even outside of Westerns, you had sitcoms like Mr. Ed, the Talking Horse.
Market drops 5 points. I'm glad my money's tied up in hay. Morning, Wilbur.
Never mind that. I'm tired of you beating me to the morning paper. I like to read it with my eggs.
I like to read it with my hay.
That show right there, that ran for 6 seasons and had 143 episodes. Different times, man. Regardless, all this pop culture exposure transformed the horse from merely being a beast of burden into the loyal and sometimes heroic member of the family. And you don't eat family. But here's the thing, the US Food and Drug Administration can only regulate legally based on health and safety concerns. So while sure, culturally Americans might have had a problem taking a big old bite of black beauty, legally, that's not what's going on here. No, the big problem is that horse meat in the US is toxic. According to an ASPCA, Animal Welfare Institute, and Humane Society report on the toxicity of horse meat, we have made horse meat in the US deadly to consume. What do I mean by that? Well, the main role of horses in the US and most other developed nations are either as farm labor, transportation, or especially with sports like horse racing. Now, to fulfill these roles, the animals are subject to chemical treatments designed either for the wellness of the horse or for performance enhancement of the horse. These chemical cocktails basically render their muscle tissue entirely unsafe for human consumption. Heck, for any consumption. Hence why it's no longer used in products like dog food. In 2013, for instance, authorities in Ireland claimed to have discovered traces of horse meat in hamburgers being sold as 100% beef. This set off a massive horse meat panic that became an international scandal across Europe, including countries where horse meat wasn't considered a big deal because many people weren't aware that some US companies were still selling horses for meat to overseas distributors and that a whole black market existed around their sale. That ASPCA report described, quote, over 50 known drugs expressly prohibited by current federal regulations for use in food animals, likely being ingested by basically any horse that would even be a potential candidate to wind up on a dinner plate. But the actual number of different drugs, both legal and illegal, being used on horses, especially race horses, is likely closer to the hundreds. With at least one New York Times expose from 2012 describing describing chemical cocktails of, quote, cobra venom, Viagra, blood doping agents, stimulants, and cancer drugs. Another specific example includes the veterinary anti-inflammatory phenylbutazone, basically a painkiller for pets, which has been known to cause fatal blood diseases like aplastic anemia in humans.
I spent $5 on you for these special mineral tablets. Supposed to be good for your coat.
Well, I'm not worried about my health. It's your health I'm worried about.
Come on.
No, thanks. I'm a horse, not a guinea pig.
Here we are pushing pills on poor horses like Mr. Ed since the 1960s. Fast forward to today, and now look at how far these noble steeds have fallen.
Just need something to help me focus. Coffee. No, I just need the right music to do drugs to.
Honestly, I'm surprised it took me that long to get a BoJack Horseman reference in here. But in all seriousness, wherever you draw your line on animal rights, meat eating, horse meat yay or nay, kinda feels like we should not be shooting horses up with cobra venom and Viagra to make them run faster and work harder. Anyway, there you have it, friends. If you were so hungry you could eat a horse, should you? Well, you could, and technically it would feed you for a full third of the year with a nice side of Jell-O for dessert. Just make sure that that horse is not coming from the US. Or, you could always just opt for a bowl of Apple Jacks over Applejack, have yourself an actual pie before a Pinkie Pie, a Mr. Pibb instead of a Mr. Ed. I think you get the idea. And a big thank you to our sponsor for today's main event, Factor. Get it? Main, because it's a episode about horses. Great, awesome. If you ever do get hungry enough to eat a horse, don't go out to your local equestrian club, friends. Instead, use Factor, where you can have delicious food coming straight out of your microwave in minutes. Their menus are updated weekly, and they include over 27 meals and more than 33 add-on options. You can choose your favorites, or you can just let Factor craft your order based on your taste preferences and meal history. And unlike the sun-dried horse jerky you're consuming on day 100 of your I Could Eat a Horse binge, with Factor, your meal is always delivered fresh, never frozen or jerkied to your door. You just heat, you eat, and you enjoy. Factor meals can be heated in the oven or microwaved in minutes when you just can't wait and your loved ones are starting to look like big old cartoon ribeyes. Let me tell you, when I'm running around the office like a racehorse, it's hard to find time to cook any nutritious meal. So having Factor meals ready to go in my fridge, especially at lunchtime, is so important because it keeps my diet stable. Strap in, because I got a lot more horse puns ready for you in this section. I also like to customize my meals with add-ons like proteins, energy bites, and veggie sides to keep me looking like a stud. Plus, it saves me the time where I don't have to trot on over to the grocery store and worry about cooking enough to last me for the week. So quit horsing around, friends. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code FOODTHEORY50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. That is FACTOR75.com, and then use the code FOODTHEORY50, FOODTHEORY50, to get 50% off your first Factor box. Thank you again to Factor for sponsoring this episode, and as always, remember, it's just a theory. A food theory. Giddy up.